Welcome to the next episode of Sobermentum Today, where we discuss middle-of-the-road drinking and how trying on an alcohol-free lifestyle might just help you show up as a better version of yourself for your life, your loved ones, and everything that matters to you most. I am your host, Morgan Smith, and today's topic is life boring alcohol-free? We'll discuss it. But before we do, I'd like to offer you a helpful tool if you've been questioning your drinking, which can be a very healthy thing to do, by the way. You can go ahead and click the link in the description box below and download your free copy of the Alcohol Drinker Spectrum to find out where you stand. Now, on to our topic. Okay, so let's get into this topic. Is life boring alcohol-free? And I think that for those of us who are avid drinkers, or in my case, used to be an avid drinker, we have come to associate alcohol with every manner of fun and social interaction, and just all of the sort of peaks of life. We've always had a drink in our hand, or at least as long as we can remember during those occasions. And so the thought of experiencing all of those without alcohol in the equation, it just seems like it wouldn't be as fun, and so I'm using the word boring obviously in the title of today's video, but if that's too strong of a word, maybe you could just say less enjoyable or less exciting or what have you. And that, for me, when I was wrestling with my drinking and what role I wanted alcohol to have or not have in my life, that was certainly sort of part of the reason that I didn't really want to completely quit, was just because I thought, man, how am I going to enjoy myself? I've had a beer in my hand and every, fun thing I've done in the last, 10, 20 years, whatever it was. So we're going to explore this topic a little bit, and I'm going to offer 3 challenges to the idea that life is either boring or just less enjoyable, lived alcohol-free. So 3 challenges I'll offer. And then and I'll give you a final verdict, what my thoughts are on a life lived with alcohol in relation to the excitement and or boredom factor. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so the first challenge that I'm going to offer to anyone who's sort of concerned or truly believes that alcohol, or that a life without alcohol will be somehow boring or less exciting, is I'm going to offer you this challenge. Was your life boring or uninteresting or unexciting, or did you not have any fun before you became a drinker? Now, for most of us, we have to sort of go back to our childhood and maybe early teen years. Most of us started experimenting with alcohol probably in our latter teen years. So if you go back to that time in your life, and I know for some of us it was a while ago, but think back about some of the really awesome moments that you remember, whatever it might be. It might be early childhood, it might be teen years. Think about some of the really fun moments. They could be things you did with your family, it could be things you did with your friends, it could be accomplishments in sports, maybe celebrations of wins, with your team or maybe in an individual endeavor. But just think about those moments, and maybe even some moments that involved some pranks of some sort, some hijinks that resulted in some deep gut busting belly laughs, and then think, would alcohol have in any way made those moments better for you? Would pouring a bunch of booze in your mouth and into your brain have somehow improved your enjoyment or enhanced your enjoyment of those moments? Now, I can't answer that for you. You have to answer it for yourself, but that's a challenge that I would offer you to really sort of explore that. On to challenge number 2. So if you look at the statistics about the percentage of the population around the world who either does not drink at all or drinks in such small quantities on such an infrequent basis that they're, for all intents and purposes, living vast majority of their life sober. If you look at those stats, and I can't remember the exact numbers. I ran the numbers on this one. So I think it's close to half. Close to half of the population of the world is either not drinking at all, or drinking on a very, very small basis that's almost insignificant. So when you think about these people, like, are they living super boring, uninteresting lives? Well, they do the same things that all of us drinkers do. They go to celebrations, they go to parties, they go to weddings, they go on vacations. Presumably, they have social interaction here and there with their work colleagues, and yet somehow they still get through life, and I'm going to assume that they're enjoying themselves, right? I mean, you can see weddings and celebrations in parts of the world where really there's almost no drinking, and they look like they're having a grand old time. So clearly it is possible for some people. And so if it is possible for some people, then conceivably it could be also possible for you, if you chose to set aside your drinking and do so for some extended period of time. The idea that your life is going to be boring, or that it has to be boring, that you're going to be relegated to this status of just sort of an uneventful, unexciting social existence. Again, this is a challenge. This is the second challenge that I'm going to offer you, is that there's a whole lot of people out there having a great time in all different variety of ways without a drop of booze at all. Third and final challenge on this topic is that when you think about it, we often drink during times and places and events that are essentially celebratory in nature to begin with. So is the alcohol the reason that we're having all this fun? Or is it that we're doing something that's fun inherently, and we're bolting alcohol onto the situation and psychologically conditioning ourselves to sort of believe that, almost like a little kid's security blanket, that is an essential component to the fun. And so whether it's, and I got a list here, a Friday or a Saturday night, the end of a work day, holidays, vacations, weddings, parties. Each of these has its own sort of inherent, degree of celebratory nature. I mean, at the end of a work day, you may not like run around dancing, although maybe you do, depending on how much you like your job. But the point is that we're doing things that are sort of fun and enjoyable to begin with, right? I mean, thinking about going on a vacation and to some beautiful destination, and that's already awesome. And yet somehow a lot of us, and I was guilty of this, so I'm not criticizing anyone, but it's like we just want to make it even better, like I'm going to enjoy it even more somehow if I put this stuff into my system. And so I think that's my challenge is, are these events truly enjoyable and fun and awesome all in and of themselves, or is the alcohol somehow necessary? Is it an essential ingredient, or have we just conditioned ourselves through repetition, taught our subconscious mind that that's an essential portion of these sort of situations? And if you're an avid drinker, I know you can relate to what I'm talking about, because you get to a point where you just don't feel quite right unless you've got that drink complementing the situation, whatever it may be. So as promised, I'm going to render my final verdict on this topic, but I'm going to do so by sort of leading into it with a quote. And this quote is a quote a manager that I used to work with had up on a poster board in his office, and it always resonated with me. I think it's attributed to Henry Ford, but I'm not entirely sure if he's the original person to say this. But the quote is, "If you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right." And I think that this is a very relevant way of looking at the topic of, is life boring or less exciting without alcohol? And if you chose to live your life sober, would you be somehow relegating yourself to a life of a lower degree of enjoyment or fun or excitement. And I think that, you know, I've seen this in my own experience, my own journey toward, you know, an indefinite sober vacation that I'm on now, being a non-drinker. And I see this in a lot of the folks that I work with as well. And that is that the relationship that we have with alcohol, by and large, is about 90% psychological. Okay, there is a 10% neurochemical element, and for some people it might be a little bit more than that. We all have sort of different genetic predispositions, but by and large, what gets us into the dependence state with our drinking, and what sort of holds us back from moving away from that into a more healthy way of living and thinking about alcohol, and most likely leaving it behind, it's the psychological. It's such a huge and powerful component. And so what we believe about drinking becomes our reality about drinking. And when we're stuck in the ditch and sort of wrestling with and most of us will wrestle with some efforts around moderation, because we're all told that that's sort of the gold standard. Of course, the reality is people who moderate their drinking don't realize they're doing it. Once you get to the point where you need to moderate your drinking, you're probably past the point of being able to do so consistently. And there is actually another video about that. I believe that was episode 3, if you want to check that out, the secret to moderating drinking. But at the end of the day, look, you did not need alcohol to have an awesome, fun, exciting experience or moment or situation in life before you became a drinker. And even if that was 30 years ago, even if that was 40 years ago, rest assured, you can leave the alcohol behind and you can have great times and great moments again. It takes a little while to get there. Okay, you got to get it out of your system. You got to let your neurochemistry recalibrate. And then you got to work on the psychological part. And that takes time. It's slow. Okay, you didn't develop your relationship with alcohol, quickly. For most of us, it happened over a long period of time, over thousands and thousands of repeated bouts of exposure, both to the substance and to the experiences. However, over the course of time, you can move yourself into a point where you're having just as much time having just as fun of a time, but you don't have any of the downsides. That burden is lifted. You don't have to worry about all of the the inherent problems associated with that awesome fun time you had with drinking. Such as saying the stupid stuff that you shouldn't have said, or doing the stupid stuff that you shouldn't have done, or driving when you shouldn't have, or just, we all know. And then, of course, there's the after effects with the hangover and all the rest of that fallout. All that, Control, Alt, Delete, gone. So you can have a great time, and you don't have any of those downsides to worry about. So it's about what you believe about the equation that's the most important. And I believe, because I know, and I've lived it now going on 2 years, that I can have a great time. I do the same things that I used to do. I just do them without alcohol. I will go out to concerts. My wife and I will go to a concert, and I used to always have a drink in my hand at a concert, and now I don't. Now I drink something else. I might drink a soda, I might drink an iced tea, I might drink a lemonade, I might just drink some, ice water, whatever, but I have a great time, and the occasion becomes about the occasion and not about the alcohol, which is great. And, whatever it might be, restaurants, holiday get-togethers, even dancing. We go out to, some bands sometimes to watch, and we get out on the dance floor, and I have just as much fun as I ever did when I was drinking. Now, that might sound crazy, but it's honestly true. And then I can drive home afterwards. So it's really, again, it's largely psychological. And you used to be able to have fun and enjoy yourself and have an awesome time and not a boring time without alcohol. And you can get there again if you want to. So with that said, I'm going to close out this episode, and we'll see you next time on Sobermentum today.